Antrim 222, Wexford 220. What an extraordinary, incredible win at Corrigan Park as Antrim upset the odds, beating Wexford in a game where everybody expected Wexford to win. Let's be perfectly honest, myself included. I predicted a 12-point win for Wexford. I think most people would have expected Wexford to win this game very convincingly, very comfortably, and then you obviously move on and you play Galway next week. But that was not the case. That was not the case in the slightest, as Antrim completely against the grain in many ways pull off a famous 2-point win versus Wexford. I think massive question marks have to be asked of Wexford in terms of their mentality, in terms of managing games, especially going down the home stretch. Like, this is the second game in a row now where they've conceded 2 late goals and they've thrown away, like they threw away a 5-point lead in injury time versus Dublin, and now they've thrown away a 7-point lead against Antrim. And quite incredible, absolutely quite incredible. Like, many people expected Wexford coming into the Leinster Championship to be the third place team in Leinster, to be the team that can get out of the Leinster Championship. But that was not the case at all. That was not the case at all. And look, fair play to Antrim. They brought a huge amount of energy. They were hugely up for the fight. Like, the amount of battle they shown in this game, they didn't look like a team that had lost every game in league and championship. Like, they played with confidence. Shooting wise, they were very, very good. Like, Keelan Malloy in the first half was very good before he goes off. Sean Elliott's very impressive as well. 1-3. Conal Cunning, James McNaughton, Noel McKenna. Like, all these lads really, really brought so much to the table for Antrim, and they were bang up for it. And you have to give them a huge amount of credit for that. For Wexford, like, Lee Chin was phenomenal. Like, there's no getting away from that. 2-11. His second goal was absolutely world class. I mean, to catch the ball the way that he did, he turns his man, solos it brilliantly, and then obviously fires the ball into the back of the net. The other goal is obviously a well-taken penalty as well. And like, Lee Chin was phenomenal, 2-11 overall. But aside from that, Wexford really didn't offer anything. Like, a lot of their other forwards were very quiet. Rory O'Connor wasn't in the game. Connor McDonald was very anonymous. Keane Byrne had some bright sparks, in fairness. Young player, 4 points, majority of which came in the first half. But like, aside from that, Wexford were like, they only had 6 scores in the entire game. They finished with a tally of 220, and Lee Chin gets 211. You know, like, and that just kind of boils it down really from a Wexford perspective. So yeah, look, fair play to Antrim. I wasn't planning on making a video on this game, to be honest with you. Like, I was obviously watching the game on GA Go, very much expecting this to be a foregone conclusion. You know, and it goes the way, like, I didn't expect there to be much to talk about really after this, but there really is. And it's completely thrown up the dynamic in Leinster now, because you obviously have Dublin playing Carlow in a half an hour's time. As a Dublin fan, I'm happy, but at the same time, look, you have to credit Antrim. Like, Antrim are very much now in the mix of getting out of Leinster. They definitely are, because they won't fear Dublin. They only came a point within Dublin in the league. Still obviously have to play Carlow at home in their own backyard in the final game. So Antrim could get out of Leinster Championship. It's very, very likely. But for Wexford, like, just again, like, obviously with Rossiter coming in, you really expected them to kick on. They obviously didn't have a good time of it last year, nearly got relegated before they pulled off that miraculous win versus Kilkenny. And you're looking at it now and you're thinking, like, what on earth is going on with Wexford hurling? You know, completely bottled it against Westmeath last year in that game. Bottled it against Dublin. Now they've bottled it again in this game. You know, like, and yes, they'll turn up and they'll probably play quite well against Galway next week. They'll probably play quite well when they play Kilkenny in the final game. And I wouldn't even be surprised if they won that game. But it's just in these games that Wexford are very, very much letting themselves down. Like, yes, they do have a few young lads who've come into the team and everything else, but they've so much experience in that team. Like, Lee Chin, he done his part. But you've got Connor Foley, Damien Reck, Matt O'Hanlon, Connor McDonald. You have so much experience in there, and they just let it slip, completely let it slip. And it's just another game that completely goes a begging for Wexford. And it's certainly one that will come back to haunt them, in my opinion, because you've got Galway to play next week. If you don't win that, you've got a point after 3 games. You know, you're probably going to be 4 or 5 points adrift of Dublin. You're probably going to be a couple of points adrift of Antrim, possibly even Kilkenny, Galway as well. So it's just, yeah, it's completely thrown the dynamic up in Leinster. And who knows, Wexford could very well you know, it could be the exact same scenario as it was last year, where they needed to beat Kilkenny in the final day to avoid relegation. And, you know, they did it. They did pull off that win. You feel like you know, it could go down to the same thing again. It really, really could, in fairness. Absolutely mental stuff. Kieran says here, delighted for Antrim, blows it wide open now. And Wexford are going down. Sad to say it, says John. Yeah, it's I don't think you will go down, to be fair. I still would expect Wexford to have enough. Like, you should beat Carlow, like, let's be honest. And I would probably look at the Kilkenny game. Like, Kilkenny will probably be in a Leinster final. You'll probably beat them again. Do you know what I mean? So I think Wexford will be fine. But in terms of getting out of Leinster, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen now. And like, for Wexford hurling, like, they should be getting out of Leinster. They really should be. Like, I do think they are a better team than Dublin. They've made more progress than Dublin this year in terms of the younger players that are coming in. Like, I don't think Dublin are necessarily that great. I'm even saying that as a Dublin fan. You know, we got out of jail probably last week with getting that draw, and I nearly wouldn't be surprised if Carlow done something against us later. But yeah, just completely just blow wide open. Antrim are proven year after year. Good to see it, says Denise. Yeah, they are. And look, they've lost a lot of players coming into Leinster this year. Obviously, they got Keelan Malloy back, which was huge. But obviously, Neil McManus, the standout player who obviously retired. To think they've gone and beaten Wexford without him in the team. So there has been a turnover of players. Obviously, they've had Darren Gleeson, who's been there a good while now. And he, to be fair, especially at Corrigan Park, you know, his team, that Antrim team, are always bang up for it. And it's not the first time they've pulled off a big scalp, you know, in Corrigan Park or whatever. But yeah, you couldn't believe it. You absolutely couldn't believe it. Absolutely crazy, and fair play to the Saffrons. I think it's a famous win for them. But for Wexford, back to the drawing board. And yeah, like, you couldn't believe it, because I was watching the game thinking, at some point here, Wexford are gonna pull away. They got the penalty, which it probably was a penalty with the tug on the shirt and everything, but at the same time, they aren't always given. So the referee spotted it, the umpire spotted it. In fairness, they get the goal. They obviously get the second goal towards the end as well, which probably came against the run of play. 7 points up, just kill the game, manage the game, take your chances, take your opportunities, and Wexford didn't, and they completely lost their heads at the back, which is unlike them. Like, such experienced players like Conor Foley, Damien Reck, these lads, but they just completely fell apart. And even towards the end, like, continuously launching long balls into the square. Antrim were gobbling those balls up all day long, you know, and it was very, very repetitive from a Wexford point of view. But yeah, fair congratulations to Antrim. Massive congratulations to them. I think Sean Elliott was my man of the match. Although, look, I think Lee Chin was the man of the match, in all honesty. 2-11. The second goal, as I said, was absolutely top drawer. Great to see him back, you know, with full fitness and everything else, because he's obviously had injury problems over the last couple of years. But yeah, like, he must be kicking himself at the same time, because to play as well as that and still not win, you know, is a massive blow. But yeah, can Antrim get out of Leinster? That's going to be the big question. I think they play Dublin next in Parnell Park. Look, they won't fear Dublin. They'll be coming in with a huge degree of confidence. And depending on what happens in the Dublin Carlow game, you know, Antrim could go above Dublin with a win. So look, completely blows it open. And I think it's good, because the Leinster Championship has been very predictable in the last couple of years. And look, Galway, Kilkenny, they'll be the two sides in the Leinster final. Absolutely no doubts about that. But aside from that, it's just been Wexford, Dublin, who scrapes into third. Then you've got the two bottom teams. Whereas now, it's probably not good news for Carlow, because I think it means they played quite well against Galway last week, but it probably does mean now that they could very well be gone in terms of relegation. It's going to be very hard for them to stay up, but you know, it blows the championship wide open, and I think it's absolutely great to see. So yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in. Hit the like button and subscribe if you can. That'd be absolutely great. And yeah, my name's Aaron. We'll catch you all in the next one.